everyone, welcome to another video. I'm wearing my Big Ohio BookCon tee just in case it summons some of my Ohio reader friends. Today we are here to do one thing, the mid-year freakout book tag. And I am here today because my friend Sophia tagged me in her recent video. I will also be mentioning some other fellow content creators in the description, and I'll give you a little rundown of what I love about them later in the video. I was not planning on doing this tag, but rather than skipping it all together, I decided I'm just gonna substitute in some of my own questions to keep it fun. The last book I finished was The Calamity Club by Catherine Stockett. Her niche is historical fiction, and she has not published in about 17 years. The story is told in dual POV, two main characters, Birdie and Meg. The audiobook is so well done that I would almost push you toward just downloading that and listening to it that way. The book itself is over 600 pages long. It does earn its page count and the story moves quite quickly. I would say it's medium pace. If a larger book intimidates you, the audiobook was so good that I just kept switching back and forth myself when I was reading it.
Chapter 44. There was the usual scurry and ruckus before we opened, with Mr. Binney warming up on piano and horns blaring through the air.
I loved the narrating choices. I really think they gave 300%, so it's well worth the listen. I'm not going to tell you anything about the plot for that one because I went into it without knowing anything and it took some turns that I was not expecting, but I ended up growing so attached to those two main characters, Birdie and Meg, that by the last page, I felt tears in my eyes. My new favorite character, I love Meg. She is, I think, 11 at the beginning of this story. Just love her tenacity and spunkiness. She really goes through it in that book. My favorite book of the year so far has a little bit of a backstory to it. I have been going to author events and library talks quite a bit this year, and one of the ones I went to was a book talk where they discussed new releases that were coming out. They were literally at points just reading the synopsis.
What do you think?
I think you should lose the first line and the last line and all of the other lines and instead just walk up to the mic and meow really loudly for 8 minutes.
But the one high point of that event was that you got to choose one free advanced reader copy from a cart of free books. And the book that I spotted is on track to be my favorite book for this year, The Geomagician by Jennifer Mandula. This is a fantasy that is set in England in the early 1800s, and we're following a character named Mary based on a real historical figure named Mary Anning. Fossil magic is present in this world. There is a society that regulates the use of magic and trains people to use it well. There's also a conflict between religion and science in this book that is an ongoing debate, and we have the added interplay of magic thrown into this. So Mary is looking for fossils and she comes across a fossilized egg. Something happens and a pterodactyl hatches, a baby dinosaur. This discovery is probably big enough to finally get her access to this society of geomagicians she has longed to be a part of for most of her life. And she starts to realize that the barriers that have been holding her back are not because she hasn't made an important discovery, but because learning has been barred from women, how limited they were in different fields of study. A lot of readers went into it expecting it to be more romance heavy and more magic heavy, and I think there's just a taste of that going on. It's a lot more about the different political themes than the fantasy or the romance. So I loved it. I got to meet the author in person at the BookCon, and she signed this arc for me. I also really liked reading it as a paperback, but the audiobook, excellent for this as well. I went on a lot of walks listening to the audiobook.
Every fossil is a miracle. All living things, Regno animalium et vegetabilium, eventually die, and the vast majority of these, swallowed by earth or exposed to the elements, fall in the end to dust. That's a rather romantic summary of the messy business of decomposition, but the point is, few organisms escape that fate. Any that do are one in a million. That's what I wanted to say to the tourist with the yellow dress when she muttered to her husband, "But they're just seashells."
Either way, you can't go wrong. My most anticipated reads for this year are Whistler by Ann Patchett and Land by Maggie O'Farrell. As you can see, these are both library copies, so I will be getting to those both very soon. Whistler has been very well talked about. I'm excited to read this one. It's quite short. The only Ann Patchett that I have read is Tom Lake, and I really enjoyed that. I love her writing and the way that that story was told. There was a woman who was reflecting back on her life and telling about her experiences over summers in the past to her daughters. I really liked that POV, and I don't know what to expect from this one. I really love going into hyped novels blind, and that is the same for Land by Maggie O'Farrell. The first book that I have read by this author is Hamnet. I'm excited to get to this one this summer, and I also do not know anything about the plot, but I look forward once again to her immersive and very purple writing style, and I hope that it's going to be a new favorite. The best sequel I read this year is Everyone in This Bank is a Thief by Benjamin Stevenson. This is book 4 in the Ernest Cunningham mystery series, so we have another locked room scenario, quite large cast of characters that are all at the bank for different reasons, but each one of them is a thief of a different kind. And Ernest Cunningham as a character is kind of a semi-unreliable narrator, but he's very observant and he tries to follow all of the rules of classic mystery novels. But at the same time, he is telling it from his perspective, and so you might miss a couple things as less important when you're reading the story. It's very funny in tone, but there are murders in this story. It was very entertaining and just everything I hoped for from this book. I have not one, but 5 most anticipated books that are coming out in the next 6 months. Life Out of Order by Audrey Niffenegger, a sequel to The Time Traveler's Wife. I love that book. I love that book, but it's also so controversial to recommend to other readers because there's a lot of content in it that I don't like. The next is Peck and Peck, which is by Bonnie Garmis, who wrote Lessons in Chemistry, another favorite. Hollywood Ending by John Green. I've pre-ordered a signed copy of this one. The Silent Appeal by Janice Hallett, another mixed media mystery. I have not had a miss with her since the Twyford Code. Everything I've read by her since then has been a hit. I would lump that in the same category as the Ernest Cunningham books, as far as books that are really hard to put down and they're just such a fun, immersive time when you're reading them. The next is The Velvet Knife by Maureen Johnson. We're getting another book in the Truly Devious series. So excited to be back there with Stevie Bell and see what she's up to, because Nine Liars really, it was almost like a Gilmore Girls season ending. It was just a cliffhanger. I need to know what happens next, and I hope that the mystery in the story is just as good as the classic earlier books in the series. My biggest disappointment this year is also some readers' favorite book, Into the Blue. I went into this book expecting that it was going to have a lot of like 90s baby nostalgia because there were Star Trek references. There's a video rental store that our main character works at, and that is where she meets her love interest. But what I did not expect was how much spicy content was in this book. Truly made me question whether that was the real reason that people loved it. I did really love the improv mention in this story. There's a lot of behind the scenes of acting, and I wanted more of that. I liked being on the set for the show, the way that the two characters were communicating through their lines rather than directly. But at the same time, that was where so much of the toxicity in the relationship came from. There was a distancing that the male love interest continued to do that really made me just cancel him. I did not root for their relationship after probably the 3rd time that he had pushed her away. My second biggest disappointment is The Ending Writes Itself by Evelyn Clark. The marketing for this book was so solid, but the book itself really fell flat for me. It could have been so much more interesting if they really leaned into mixed media. The execution on this was kind of lazy, while the concept was fire. We have these different authors who write from a variety of genres: romance, horror, young adult fantasy, and
2 minutes minutes later.
Romance, horror, young adult fantasy, detective / thriller, and sci-fi. They arrive at this house that's like a secluded, isolated environment. They have to get on a boat to get to the house. When they arrive, they are told that this is not actually a writer's retreat. They are all brought there to finish a famous final book in this author's series. They each have a typewriter in their room. They have a different stack of colored paper next to the typewriter, and they're given a copy of the unfinished manuscript to read, and they read that galley, and then they're supposed to write the ending of the story. But they spend so much time doing anything but writing in this book, and there's not like any compensation for that. It's really just killing time. It was a waste. We could have had them working through the writing process for that unfinished story, had samples of their own writing, and it would have been so fun if it was done well. I'm not canceling out like the Evelyn Clark of it all. I just really did not feel like this lived up to the hype. My biggest surprise is The Unseen World by Liz Moore. I decided that I wanted to read some of her backlist after God of the Woods really took off last year. This one had been on my TBR for a while, so I finally got it from the library. Initially, I almost wrote it off because AI is a big part of the theming in this book. There's something about it that kind of reminds me of Lessons in Chemistry, because there's a main character who is getting into technology and she goes into a lab with her adopted father. She becomes very well educated in that, but she's not caught up in school. Her father is diagnosed with Alzheimer's, which is another bit of a trigger warning. I'm glad that I read it anyway because it is difficult, but it also is just so beautifully written. My new favorite author, Sarah Beth Durst. I also got to meet her at the book con, and she signed a copy of The Spell Shop for me. She was just as sweet in person as she seems to be in her writing. Also got to read her book that will be out soon this next month, Sea of Charms. There are some very lovable characters in that book, and there's a great use of music, still a cozy little escape, and that's what she intends that series to be. So I have got to read more in her backlist. Maybe this summer or fall/winter, I will get to read more from the author. A book that made me cry is The Correspondent. Pretty sure this is not uncommon. I was listening to the audiobook for this one, and the last chapter really gets ya. You're following an aging character. Her main way of communicating with people is through letter writing, and she really relies on that. It also opens some doors for her because she writes directly to authors of books that she liked or disliked. She starts up friendships with people that are just customer service support. I felt for her in like isolation and her learning to be vulnerable with people, and she did that so late in life. You know, she's starting to have fewer regrets because she's becoming a more honest person, but at the same time you know that she's not going to have that for very long. It was a beautiful book, and I know if you've read it, you probably also feel the same way. You twinge of emotion at the end of that story as well. A book that made me happy is The Night We Met by Abby Jimenez. I had so much fun being back in one of her novels. Earlier this year, I tried to read her first 3 books, and I was having a harder time. The second 2 were just not landing for me like her newer books. So Say You'll Remember Me was a favorite last year. The character dynamics and like some of the things that happen in this book have me crack up. And when our 2 characters are on this really horrible outing together, they're on a walk and they're supposed to meet someone on their way, but the person who gave them directions literally did not know how long it was going to take them to get from point A to point B. They have like a rusty water bottle that was given to one of them. That's all they have to drink. It rains. There's so much that goes wrong, but because they have such chemistry together and they're just such good friends, it's not the worst experience. It becomes a bonding experience for the 2 of them. It was super refreshing to read a book that had like 0 spice and just really good friends to lovers energy. So the next is a question that I am substituting in, and that is, what is the best adaptation you have seen this year? You may be thinking, oh, Project Hail Mary, because that is one of the most popular. The one I have in mind is The Other Bennett Sister by Janice Hadlow. This book is so sweet, and I mentioned before when I reviewed it, it was one of my favorites. In this retelling, we're following the perspective of Mary, who is not like her witty or beautiful older sisters or her impulsive and vain younger sisters. She loves to play the piano, she loves to read, and she's a little bit self-sacrificing for the sake of her feeling like she is a martyr. So she's got a lot of growth ahead of her as a character, and her surroundings with her family the way they are, the prospect of her being alone with her mother, there is potential for her to grow and bloom as a character, but she needs to be in a different environment, and so that's what happens in this story. And the adaptation on BritBox, so heartwarming. It's one of the best period dramas I have seen in some time. The casting is excellent. The overall character arc of Mary Bennett and her love interest storyline is fascinating and endearing, and it's just one of those shows that makes you giggle and kick your feet a little. So if you haven't checked it out yet, definitely go give that a watch and let me know what your favorite book to screen adaptation this year has been. Here are my 3 favorite covers. First is Love is an Algorithm. I love the color palette, especially for this cover, and the way that they've layered both photography and graphics. Everything is just like working so well together. On the Dusk Jacket, certain elements of this that were reverse embossed, and I love the finishing on the cover as well. It wasn't a favorite book for me, but I did really love the writing and I want to read more from the author. The next is an upcoming release that is going to be out this fall, and that is Twig's Traveling Tomes. I love both versions of this cover. I think the UK edition might have my heart though, because we get to see inside the treehouse bookstore that is central to the plot. This is about a woman who owns a bookstore, and she has the magical ability to recommend the book that you need, not the one that you're looking for. And sometimes that annoys her customers, and sometimes it is a pleasant surprise. One day, this handsome stranger shows up in her store, and he's wearing a pair of handcuffs. Think like Flynn Rider from Tangled.
All right, listen, I didn't want to have to do this, but you leave me no choice. Here comes the smolder.
That's the personality that we're dealing with here. He needs her help, and she just kind of gets roped into this adventure. That's all I'll say. It's going to be coming out from Bindery in just a little bit, from Cozy Quill imprint, so I will put the release date up there for you, but I love both versions of this cover. Which one do you like better? And then the last one is Graceless Heart. This is the newest from Isabel Ibanez. I love the cover for this. The end pages are beautiful. They're like magenta foil. Looking for a new romantasy. This one is set in Italy, and the main character is a sculptor, and she wins a sculpting competition for a statue that she has made. She's put a little something extra into her piece in the form of this magical gem, and it catches the eye of the family who's judging the contest. And not only does she win a special boon, but she's also taken away by this wealthy, mysterious family who have their own plans for how to use her skills. If you like Isabel's bestie, Rebecca Ross, I think you might enjoy this book. So we're coming to the end of this video, and I need to tell you about the content creators that I've been watching lately. So here are 4 recommendations for you to go find and follow. The first is Connor Caught Reading. I love listening to her talk about her favorite books. She recently put out a new releases video that talks through some of the books that are coming out in the next few months that she is eager to read. I love the cozy vibe. You can usually see her dog lounging in the background. The next is Tanya.Atlas in a Jar. She has a variety of different videos that she likes to make. Some of them are personal growth, cleaning up her living space, sorting her books, vlogs. Feel like we're hanging out when I watch her videos. Obviously, I'm going to mention Sophia. It's been so fun getting to know her better, and she is the one who tagged me, and it's the reason why this video exists. She reads a lot of literary fiction, and thrillers are some of her favorites. If you pop by, make sure to comment a thriller that she should read this summer. She's on the lookout for books that will help her beat a reading slump. Julie, over on Julie's Reading, I have loved her competition style videos. I aspire to gamify my reading to the point that Julie does, and they're just so fun to watch. Go give her a follow as well. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like. If you want to stick around and see how my reading journey continues this year, please hit that subscribe button. I hope you find some new favorites this year as well, and some beautiful covers, and I hope to see you in another video soon.